The doorbell just rang for the third time. On the monitor, the thing that looks exactly like my paladin, Valerius, is still standing there, motionless. Its polished silver and gold armor, the aegis of the Sun-Forged, glints under the dim porch light. An armor set that doesn't just exist in the game, it's a one-of-a-kind reward. My one-of-a-kind reward. Its helmet is on, but where my character's chiseled, heroic face should be, there is only a deep, pixelless black void. It has no face, just like its username. I can't open the door. I can't call the police. What would I even tell them? That a video game character is on my porch? They'd think I was insane, a prank caller. My phone sits on the table, useless. My hands are shaking too much to even hold it. Every part of me is screaming to run, to bolt out the back, but I'm paralyzed, anchored to the screen that shows the impossible. To understand why I can't move, why the sound of that chime feels like a death sentence, you need to understand what happened during the guild raid 2 months ago. You need to know about the player with no name. For the better part of 3 years, my life had a comfortable, predictable rhythm. Wake up, drag myself through my soulless data entry job, come home, and then finally live. My real life began the moment I logged into Ethelgard Online. It was a sprawling, beautiful, brutal world of magic and monsters, a digital haven from the crushing monotony of my actual existence. My apartment was just a place to store the body that operated the keyboard. My home was the city of Silverhaven. My friends were the Crimson Vanguards, and I wasn't Alex, the guy from apartment 4B. I was Valerius, Holy Paladin, Shield of the Righteous. The Crimson Vanguards weren't the top guild on the server, not by a long shot, but we were a tight-knit crew. We'd spent months, actual months, throwing ourselves against the final raid of the latest expansion, the Obsidian Citadel. It was a masterpiece of digital cruelty, a fortress designed by developers who clearly hated their player base. We had the strategy down, we had the gear, or so we thought, but we always faltered at the final hurdle. The frustration was a physical thing, a sour taste in the back of my throat after every failed attempt. The guild's reputation, our morale, it was all hanging by a thread. That's when he, or it, appeared. It was a Tuesday night, another fruitless session of wiping on the Citadel's first boss. The mood in our voice chat was grim. Then, a notification popped up in the guild interface. A request to join. This was unusual. We were a closed recruitment guild. You had to know someone. I opened the application window, and the first oddity struck me. The username field was empty, utterly blank. There was no name, just a void where letters should have been. The character's level was maxed out, but the profile was a ghost. No achievements listed, no play history, no previous guilds. It was like the character had been willed into existence at maximum level just moments before applying. Our guild leader, a gruff warrior named Borlog, immediately called it out as a bug, a hacked account. He was ready to deny it outright, but I saw the character's gear. It was flawless, perfectly optimized, enchanted to the highest possible degree. Things that took months of grinding to acquire. This character had them all. I was desperate. Another night of failure felt like it would break us. I argued for the stranger. I told Borlog that maybe it was a developer's alternate character, or a legendary player from another server who valued anonymity. We were desperate, and this was a lifeline. After a tense debate, my voice held sway. Borlog reluctantly sent the guild invitation. The blank player accepted instantly. In the guild roster, their name appeared as a simple underscore. Just do. In the chat log, it was the same. A single underscore followed by whatever they typed. But they never typed anything. Not a single word of greeting, not a hello. They just stood there in the guild hall, a silent, perfectly geared sentinel. The silence was unnerving, a stark contrast to the usual boisterous chatter of the vanguards. But the raid was waiting. With a collective sigh of weary resolve, we teleported to the entrance of the Obsidian Citadel. The difference was immediate and terrifying. The first boss, the hulking monstrosity that had been our wall for weeks, became trivial. Our new silent member moved with a prescience that was inhuman. They knew every attack pattern before it began, intercepting lethal blows meant for our healers, positioning themselves with impossible, pixel-perfect precision. It wasn't just skill, it was omniscience. At one point, a rare legendary shield dropped from a mini-boss, the bulwark of eternal flame, a piece I had been chasing for a year. The game's loot system was supposed to randomly assign it based on a role. There was no role. The shield simply appeared in my inventory. A line of text confirmed it. You have received item, Bulwark of Eternal Flame. Confusion erupted in the voice chat. People were asking what happened, how the loot system was bypassed. I was stunned into silence, staring at the icon in my bag. Then a new window popped up on my screen. A private message. The first I had ever received from our blank name companion. It was from 2 sentences. The enchantments on your old shield were suboptimal. This will increase your threat generation by 14. I felt a cold prickle on the back of my neck. It wasn't just that they knew I needed the upgrade, it was the cold, analytical way they stated it. No emotion, no bravado. Just data. We cleared the first wing of the raid that night, a feat that had been unthinkable just hours before. The guild was ecstatic, their initial suspicion of melting away into awe and gratitude. They celebrated in the main city, drinking virtual ale and dancing on tables. I stood apart from the festivities, my eyes constantly drawn to the silent, nameless player who had made it all possible. I tried to rationalize it. A developer for sure. Testing new in-game AI or some new class build. That had to be it. It was weird, but it was working. I was Valerius, and my power had just increased exponentially. I told myself to stop looking a gift horse in the mouth. It was a moment of false calm, a brief respite where I allowed the thrill of victory and the shine of new loot to blind me to the impossibly red flags that were waving right in front of my face. I convinced myself it was fine. That was my first mistake. The following week, we ventured into the second wing of the Citadel. This part of the raid was less about brute force and more about complex cryptic puzzles. One room had us stumped for nearly an hour. It involved activating a series of ancient runes based on an obscure passage of in-game lore that was practically an urban myth. Our raid leaders were scouring websites, frantically trying to find the solution. The whole endeavor ground to a halt. While everyone was distracted, simply walked forward. Their character moved with quiet purpose, stepping up to the runed wall. Without hesitation, they activated 5 specific runes in a sequence that seemed totally random. A low grinding sound echoed through our headphones, and a massive stone door, previously hidden, slid open. The voice chat fell silent. No one knew what to say. How could anyone have known that? It wasn't strategy. It was a secret whispered only on the most hidden corners of the game's fan forums. Later, we faced the twin gargoyle bosses, a fight notorious for its chaotic, unpredictable attacks. In the middle of the intense battle, my real world intruded. Mittens, my ginger cat, chose that exact moment to leap onto my desk, directly in front of the monitor, purring and demanding attention. I was distracted for no more than a second, pushing her gently away, but in Ethelgard, a second is an eternity. On screen, one of the gargoyles had launched a fatal attack, a wave of shadow flame I hadn't seen coming. I was dead. There was no way to avoid it. And then it happened. Its character model, which had been clear across the platform, simply blinked. It didn't run. It teleported, appearing directly in front of my character, Valerius. It absorbed the entire blast, its health bar dropping to a sliver, but not breaking. It saved me. My heart was pounding from the near failure. I was about to type my thanks into the guild chat when another private message window from Hawthorne opened. That was careless. You need to focus, and tell Mittens to get off the desk. I froze. My hands hovered over the keyboard, but I couldn't type. The blood drained from my face, and the room, which had been warm, suddenly felt ice cold. Mittens. I had never, not once, mentioned my cat's name online. Not in the game, not on any social media, not on any forum. My profiles were all anonymous, locked down. The name Alex was common, but Mittens, that was specific. That was real. That was mine. The rest of the raid passed in a blur. I played on autopilot, my mind racing. How? How could they know? I tried to come up with a logical explanation. Had I said her name out loud near my microphone? Was it a lucky guess? A 1 in a billion shot? But the calm, declarative nature of the message felt like anything but a guess. It was a statement of fact. After the raid ended, I logged off immediately, ignoring the guild celebrations. My apartment felt different. The familiar comfort was gone, replaced by a creeping, invasive dread. I walked through the small space, checking the lock on the door, peering out the blinds into the dark street. It felt like there were eyes on me, not from the outside, but from the inside, from the glowing monitor on my desk. I spent an hour scouring my digital footprint, every old account, every forgotten profile. Nothing. No mention of my cat, ever. I tried to regain my composure. It was a coincidence. A deeply, profoundly unsettling coincidence, but a coincidence nonetheless. I took a deep breath, trying to push the paranoia away. I told myself I was overreacting, letting the intensity of the game get to me. This was my second moment of false calm, and it was far more fragile than the first. I tried to believe I was safe, that the wall between my two worlds was still intact. I remember wishing I could tell someone. I had this fleeting, desperate thought, an urge to post on some forum, screaming into the void, to ask if anyone else had ever felt this digital haunting, this sensation of a ghost in their machine that knew more than it should, to ask them to leave a comment, to like the post, not for fame, but as a warning flare. A signal to let me know I wasn't going crazy, that I wasn't alone in this specific modern kind of fear. But I didn't. I kept it to myself. That was my second and biggest mistake. 2 weeks later, we stood before the final boss of the Obsidian Citadel, the Lich King Malachor on his throne of ruin. The entire server knew we were attempting it. Other players had gathered outside the instance, their avatars like a silent, expectant crowd. This was it, the culmination of months of effort. The fight was as brutal as the legends claimed. Spells flew, chaos reigned, and our voice chat was a frantic symphony of commands and callouts. We were doing it, though. We were actually doing it. His health bar was dwindling, 20%, 10%, 5%. And then my internet connection flickered. A small, dreaded icon appeared on my screen. My latency shot up into the thousands. It was my ISP, notoriously unreliable, choosing the worst possible moment to fail me. I shouted in frustration, my voice cracking. A disconnect now would be catastrophic. It would reset the entire fight. All this effort, all this progress gone. As my screen began to freeze, the prelude to being kicked from the server, it suddenly stabilized. Not just stabilized, it became perfect. My latency dropped to a single digit, faster than I had ever seen it. It was impossible. A moment later, Malachor fell. A server-wide announcement broadcast our victory. The Crimson Vanguards were the first to conquer the Obsidian Citadel. A wave of triumphant screams erupted in the voice chat. Legendary loot notifications flooded our screens. And in my inventory, a mythical one-handed sword, the Soulfire Blade, appeared. A perfect weapon for my paladin, completing my gear set. Amid the chaos and celebration, I felt nothing but a cold, hollow dread. The internet connection, the perfect loot, the impossible knowledge. It all clicked into place, forming a picture of something monstrously wrong. This wasn't a player. It was something else, something that could reach outside the game. My hands were shaking as I opened the private message window I ignored the guild chat, the congratulations, the joyous noise. I had to know. My fingers trembled as I typed the question that had been haunting me for weeks. I sent them a simple line. "Who are you?" The reply was instantaneous. It wasn't a whisper. It wasn't a character name or a confession of being a developer. It was a single line of cold, hard text. My own home address, the street number, the street name, the apartment number, the city, the postal code. My exact location on planet Earth. Beneath it were two simple words. A fan. I ripped my headset off and threw it onto the desk. The sound of the guild's celebration vanished, replaced by the frantic hammering of my own heart. I shoved my chair back so hard it crashed into the wall. A wave of nausea and violation washed over me. The game wasn't a sanctuary anymore. It was a window, a two-way mirror, and something had been watching me through it. I scrambled to my computer, my fingers fumbling on the mouse. I opened the guild roster. I found the underscore. I clicked on it, and my hand slammed down on the Kick from Guild button. A confirmation window popped up. I clicked yes. Another notification confirmed it. Has been removed from the guild. Then I went to my friends list, my block list. I blocked them, though I knew it was a hollow gesture. A bandage on a severed limb. I typed a frantic, barely coherent message to Borlog, the guild leader. A jumbled mess about the player being a stalker, a doxer, that they had my real-world information, that he had to warn everyone. I didn't wait for a reply. I didn't care about the loot, the victory, the reputation. All I wanted was out. I hit the log out button, feeling a profound, desperate need to sever the connection. The epic music of Ethelgard faded and my character Valerius vanished. The screen went dark. Silence. The sudden quiet of my apartment was deafening. The only sounds were the hum of the computer's movements and my own ragged, panicked breathing. For a moment, a sliver of relief pierced through the terror. I was disconnected. It was over. The line was cut. And then my doorbell rang. A single, clear, piercing chime that shattered the silence. I froze, every muscle in my body locking up. It couldn't be. It was a coincidence. It had to be. A package delivery. A neighbor. Anyone. It rang again. And again, two short, insistent presses. More urgent this time. My breath hitched in my throat. I crept from my desk, my feet silent on the cheap laminate flooring. I moved toward the front door, my body low as if hiding from an unseen predator. I didn't dare look through the peephole. Instead, I went to the small monitor on my kitchen counter, the one connected to the cheap security camera I'd installed above my door. My finger trembled as I pressed the button to activate the feed. The screen flickered to life, showing the dimly lit hallway outside my apartment. And my heart stopped. It didn't just stop. It felt like it had been violently seized in an icy grip. Standing on my welcome mat was him, Valerius, my paladin. He was 7 feet tall, clad in the impossible, gleaming plate armor of the Sunforged. In his hand, he held the Soulfire blade, its runic glow casting a faint, sickly orange light on my door. It was all there. Every detail, every texture, rendered in terrifying high-definition reality. But the helmet, the faceplate was down. And behind the visor, where my character's eyes should have been, there was only that same deep, abyssal blackness from the game. A void, a patch of nothingness that seemed to drink the light around it. It just stood there, perfectly still. It didn't breathe. It didn't shift its weight. It just was. The doorbell rang a third time, the sound burrowing directly into my skull. My phone lit up on the counter. It was Borlaug from the guild, probably calling in a panic after my message. I couldn't answer. I couldn't speak. All I could do was stare at the monitor, at the thing wearing my character's armor, standing on my porch, waiting. It knows I'm here. It knows I'm watching. I don't know what it wants or how it crossed over from a world of pixels and code into flesh and blood reality. All I know is that the game is over. And now something else is about to begin. Perhaps the only thing worse than a ghost in the machine is when the machine sends that ghost out to find you. Join me next time as I tell you the story of the man who bought a haunted smart home.